In this video, I will show you the top 3 best chess traps that beginners fall for all the time. They're easy to learn, perfect for beginners, and work in real games. I hope you guys enjoy, and let's get started. So, the first trap on our list can win a game in just 9 moves. It starts off with you playing pawn to d4, and then your opponent plays pawn to d5. You respond with pawn to e4, offering your opponent a free pawn. Your opponent accepts, taking the pawn. And then you play knight to c3, attacking the pawn. Your opponent defends the pawn with knight to f6. And then you respond with pawn to f3. Your opponent takes your pawn. Now, most players would take back with their knights, but you're actually going to take back with your queen. Then, your opponent captures this free pawn with his queen. And then, you attack your opponent's queen with bishop to e3. Your opponent moves his queen to b4, attacking this undefended pawn. You defend the pawn with long castling. Then, your opponent plays bishop to g4, pinning your queen to your rook. Now, this may look like a good move, but that was actually a huge mistake. Because then, you respond with knight to b5, sacrificing your queen. Now, if your opponent's a beginner, he will probably take the queen. But then, you respond with taking the pawn on c7, giving checkmate. GG. Now, for the final demonstration. Checkmate. The second trap on our list can win a game in only 10 moves. So, it starts off with you playing pawn to e4, and then your opponent plays pawn to e5. Then, you play knight to f3, and your opponent plays knight to c6. And then you play pawn to d4, the Scotch game. Your opponent takes your pawn. And then you play pawn to c3, offering your opponent another pawn. Your opponent accepts, taking the pawn. And then you take back with your knight. And then your opponent plays pawn to d6, opening up the path for his bishop. And then you play bishop to c4, developing your bishop. Your opponent responds with bishop to g4, pinning your knight to your queen. You respond with castling. Then your opponent plays knight to e5, attacking your bishop and knight. Now, that may look like a good move, but that was actually a huge mistake. Because then, you respond with sacrificing your queen, taking the knight. Now, if your opponent's a beginner, he will probably take the queen. And then you respond with taking the pawn on f7 with your bishop, giving check. Your opponent's only move is to move the king forward, and then you play knight to d5. Checkmate. GG. Now for the final demonstration. Checkmate. The last trap on our list can win a game in just 6 moves. So, it starts off with you playing pawn to e4, and then your opponent plays pawn to c6, the Caro-Kann, and then you play knight to f3, developing your knight. Your opponent responds with pushing his pawn to d5, and then you play knight to c3, developing your second knight. Your opponent takes your pawn, and then you take back with your knight. And then your opponent plays knight to f6, attacking your knight. You respond with queen to e2, defending the knight. Now, if your opponent plays knight to d7, that's a huge mistake, because then you play knight to d6. Checkmate. GG. Now for the final demonstration. Checkmate. And those are the top 3 best chess traps for beginners. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.